afternoon, Shrikant. A warm welcome to you on behalf of APAC News Network.
Good afternoon,
Uh,
Rachel.
APAC News Network is a media organization headquartered out of Noida, and primarily we have been focusing till now on government, healthcare, and education. And
Mhm,
now we are increasing the focus also on enterprise IT and BFSI.
mhm,
We have been particularly strong in government, healthcare, and education in terms of perhaps in the last 1 year, we're the only B2B media which even have Prime Minister Modi in one of our platforms and
mhm,
different bureaucrat secretaries. And now we are looking at how BFSI and enterprise IT can
mhm.
synergize with the verticals which we have been traditionally strong in.
Okay, great.
So primarily the discussion today, broadly the points which you would like to know is obviously once an update on the solutions and services that are available from Clover. Then, since your focus area has been on the cloud-based services in BFSI, so what sort of use cases are some of these applications and services? I can see names of certain BFSI players behind you. So, other than in some of these major ones, what have been the use cases? Then, typically in the pandemic scenario, when the enterprise workload pattern itself has changed, so how does your solution sort of help these banks and other enterprises manage these changes? We would like to talk to about your go-to-market strategy. So maybe the best way to start would be if you can update on the solutions and services on the Clover portfolio now.
Sure. Thanks, Rajneesh, and I'll try to keep it interactive and interesting. So Clover is a 28-year-old company, 27, 28-year-old company. Um, I joined Clover way back in 1994, and over the period of time, I have seen Clover Infotech has grown in multiple areas in multiple cities. So typically, if you look at Clover's core focus is providing the IT management services, the which covers the platform, databases, middlewares, the application which are running on top of it. So various technology services is what providing services on that is Clover's core focus right from day one. Second thing, second thing is from while providing this service, we basically engage with the customer very deeply for year-to-year manner. So we understand their infrastructure in detail. So we basically go back to customer and do good amount of consulting in terms of what are the modernization they can bring in, what are the optimization they can bring in their infrastructure, in their applications, which can help them over the period of time. And we work very closely with them. We work within their budgets. We work within their relevance of their technologies as such, and taking various solutions. So, just in short, Clover is not a product company. We don't develop products. We work with enterprise products and implementation of those, and maintaining and managing those enterprise products, but also work with customers on modernizing their infrastructure, their applications, their cloud transformation to a great extent, and also providing specific digital solutions, discussing with them, deciding what is relevant to them, all these areas.
So when you talk about helping the enterprises do their cloud transformation, so what all are involved in it? Is it from the migration is one part of it, but is it from the I'll say from
I'll
consulting
explain.
and so what all
Right.
are involved?
So basically, we go a couple of steps before that. When it comes to cloud, I don't think today we have to explain to customer about cloud computing. Everybody in enterprises, small or medium, they're aware of cloud. Some of the concerns customers are having now are okay. What's the advantage of having the hybrid cloud? What's which clouds are better for which workloads. So there is a transition of those questionnaire over the period of time. Couple of years back, the questionnaire, I mean, the question used to be about the security, about the cost of the cloud and all that. But I think, the industry has matured at a great level. There are multiple cloud players now, public cloud players now. So now questions are, okay, which applications are suitable to move it to the cloud? Or how you can help me after moving to the cloud, how you can help me to optimize my expenses and my billing on the cloud? How can you help me to reduce that? So there is quite a bit maturity with the customers now, and we basically work with customer very closely at the entire stack level. So we don't suggest customer to move only the database or only the technology infrastructure to cloud, but also the application infrastructure, because that's the only way they can get the best out of cloud. The security part, the performance part is given by those public clouds, public infrastructure clouds. But we basically help customer to understand which kind of application is suitable for the cloud. And the most important thing, after getting into cloud, what next? I mean, most of the companies used to think about cloud to optimize their cost or convert the capex into opex. But now our suggestion or our discussion with them is that once you have taken to the cloud, how you can modernize those applications and infrastructure further. And this is where we had. So before we even get into migration, we basically run evaluation study of their application platform, which covers the application, middleware, database, even the underlying hardware platform. And we suggest them the cloud transition plan to them. We present that to them. We give them multiple options to them. And depending on their relevance, depending on their workloads, we suggest the right public cloud player. And then we take complete responsibility of doing that migration along with the customer. But most importantly is the support which we give post-implementation. Because once you have moved your application platform to cloud, first 3 months, are the most critical, where you don't want any performance degradation, because then the users are going to think that, okay, because of I've gone to cloud, maybe performance degradation might have happened. So we help very close. I mean, we help them very closely to improve the performance, to tweak that. If we have to harden the security to a certain extent further, we do that. And then balance 9 months. After 3 months, the balance 9 months, we actually work with them to see that how we can modernize it. So if we have taken an application to a cloud, first 3 months, we help them to stabilize. Balance 9 months, we see that, okay, how I can integrate that application with other cloud softwares, or how I can apply reporting and analytics layer in the cloud, which will improve the performance or the output of that particular application. So one is migration, then stabilization period, and then modernization period. But it basically starts with consulting. It's consulting in doing the assessment study for them.
Thank you. So, in summation, we can break it up into consulting, assessment, then migration, and then stabilization and modernization. So,
Absolutely.
one challenge typically for enterprises, which most enterprises, at least the slightly more mature or evolved ones, have is they will have multiple clouds also. So they will have certain public cloud providers, maybe an AWS or Azure will be there. They will have certain applications on some private cloud or some hybrid model. There might be certain applications on edge also. So when there is this multi-cloud scenario and this multi-cloud management part, so there this first 3 months where you are saying is more a stabilization kind of process. Uh, how is this multi-cloud thing managed during these first 3 months, which is a critical part?
Actually, we need to consider the multi-cloud environment much even before migration, during assessment phase. because the whole objective of moving to the cloud, that you don't want to add an extraordinary layer in between your business users and application, which will degrade the performance or which will complicate the matter first. The application owners in every bank, or for that matter, any financial institutions, they're worried about their customers. They're not worried about the infrastructure or the underlying infrastructure. That's the responsibility of the infrastructure team. But the application owners are worried about the business owners and see that by moving to the cloud, do I complicate my data flow within the application? Do I add another layer which will increase the latency, of the application? Do I, by adding this multi-cloud infrastructure, am I going to make my security more vulnerable? So we do the assessment right in the beginning. So when we understand customers' application, uh, okay, let me go one step back. When you have to decide about which application to get into the cloud, you should start thinking from top to bottom and not from bottom to top. What I meant by that, you should start thinking from application side first, because infrastructure movement to the cloud, whether it is operating system or VM or database or middleware, it's a very straightforward migration. What is important is the application, because those applications are getting integrated, are already integrated with something else. Those applications are providing those data flows, within the applications. So you need to start thinking, before even getting into the cloud, whether that application would run on multi-cloud, considering its integration environment, or whether you want to keep the things simple, where you say that, okay, let this application run in the private cloud. The other thing you have to figure out is about the situation when any disaster happens, and you need to provide the business continuity to that application. So today, most of the cloud vendors, they have India data centers, and that's why the compliance authorities are allowing companies to even push the customer-related data to the public cloud, because the data centers are in India. But that is just a one part of the problem. The other part of the problem, you have to see that in case of disaster recovery or in case of various few things, whether your data movement becomes complex. So whether from private cloud it goes to public cloud, from public cloud it goes to DR, or it goes to somewhere else, you need to sit down with the architecture and see that we are not overcomplicating things by getting into multi-cloud. So in short, whenever you have to think about multi-cloud, whenever you have to think about hybrid cloud, you have to think right from the assessment perspective and not during the migration perspective.
Okay, thank you. So, two areas I'll pick up from here. You mentioned one, that the complexity of the data flow can lead to latency in certain cases, and another question was on the security front. Now, my question is, if we look back the last 1.5 years during the pandemic scenario, almost all enterprises, what they have moved is large workforce moving to a work from home or work from anywhere scenario. What that meant was a lot of heterogeneous networks and heterogeneous devices were coming into the system. So, in many cases, while the roadmap that you described, maybe that roadmap was driven for the enterprise in pre pandemic days, now suddenly a lot of security vulnerabilities will arise because many heterogeneous networks and devices are coming into the system. And two, that might even lead to latency because the data flow is becoming even more complicated. So, considering that experience in last 1.5 years, how did you handle this management of this situation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before pandemic, it's a very, I mean, a lot of things in the pandemic, or if you just think about 2020, February, when there was initial news of the coronavirus virus started coming, um, nobody thought that it will hit the industry so hard. and it will spread so fast. So in late 2019 November December or early 2020 Jan Feb, people were just watching, and people still thought that okay, it may not affect my business continuity to great extent. It can still continue on this. However, from March onwards, when it started hitting it, it hit very hard and very fast. So in our case, what we had to do is to ensure that we provide the infrastructure, or we work with customers very closely. We manage their infrastructure. So we have to ensure that people who are managing the infrastructure are mobile. They are managing from their home. So additional security layers we need to add into this. We had to provide the various devices very fast, to them, so that the response time is not affected. But that is just one part of it. This second part is, I think, the cloud moment or the modernization of applications. I think that took good amount of speed post last June, July. Last June, July, I think people accepted the fact that, okay, this is there now. It is going to affect my business. And instead of just stopping everything, let's accept that fact and let's see that how we can improve it over the period of time. So in that case, what they did, or rather what we did with the customer, is we started working with them on the projects which will make them more secure, which will make them their infrastructure more secure, their infrastructure and application more available to the various team members inside and outside, and most importantly, every business user, or not every application owner, he had only one thing in his mind, that my customer should never think that my company is affected very badly in lockdown and that's why my application is not working. They wanted to give the same customer experience pre-lockdown and pre-corona, to customer. Rather, they wanted to go one step ahead, and they wanted to provide that customer interface in more modern way to do this. So I think it was a challenging. It pushed us to take decision faster at the architecture level, at the platform level, and I must appreciate the involvement of the customers and the OEMs, various OEMs, and the SI partners like us, which we worked together and provided that agility and that secured application environment. So if you ask our set of customers, their environment did not affect much because of the great teamwork by from customer, OEMs, technology providers, and the support vendors. But I think after 6-7 months, people started taking out various projects again, and they say that okay, let's accept the fact that Corona is going to remain over here, and let's see that how we can further enhance our business and enhance our customer experience by modernizing our applications.
Okay, thanks. Just another part to here. You mentioned, especially as a system integrator, when you're working with the different OEMs for the customers. Now, typically in this whole management thing, there are a lot of fixed NDAs, and by which parameters the functioning goes on. Now, suddenly the things changed in many cases. So, how dynamically those NDAs got changed, sort of on the fly kind of thing?
I think in my personal opinion, not just NDA which changed, it's the NDA and the SLA, the service level agreement, both changed. From the NDA perspective, anyway, because we are working very closely with financial institutions and large enterprises, we pre-COVID also, we train our people on the confidentiality of customer information, on the NDA clauses, what we sign with the customer. It's a responsibility of our technical managers to ensure that his or her team is well equipped with that. But that is only at the one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that during the COVID, when you are accessing everything remotely, customer databases and all those things. What we did, we moved our security monitoring from a human dependent to machine dependent. Because if you keep it as a human dependent, then it's not scalable, especially when everything is getting moved, getting managed, remotely. So we implemented good amount of OEM tools which customer had licenses, and we had a process to provide those regular periodic MIs to the customers to see that the security is not breached, the data is not breached, and just because everybody is managing remotely, we are not affecting from the security perspective. That's from the NDA perspective. But I think SLA also got affected because for many years we used to have a standard SLA with the customer. Post-COVID, from April last year, we had meetings with various customers, obviously remotely, and we kept our SLA open for a year. And we say that we will be adjusting this, and whatever comes, in terms of service, we will adjust it as a part of SLA, because it's a very unprecedented situation now, which you are facing. Let's this era pass, and let's then sit down again to see that if we have to tweak the SLA further. But let's not get documentation in between. Whatever we need to do to ensure that the customers are not getting affected, we will include it as a part of SLA. So it was a big pressure on us in terms of, from finance perspective, from customer support perspective. But I think our guys did a fabulous job to ensure that no SLA comes in between while giving the support during this period of time.
Great. Now, coming more specifically to the customer part, so obviously BFSI, as we can see, but vertical wise, which are the organizations or enterprise you have maximum traction? And very briefly, you mentioned about the services that you are offering, but for some of your the top 3 4 customers, what sort of use cases you do with them?
Sure. So I think the security enhancement of the existing infrastructure and ensuring that existing infrastructure becomes more mobile, in the sense they can be accessed by authorized users from anywhere. I think that's going to be the requirement in future. And actually, whether it's bank or whether it is insurance company or whether it's a lending company, one of the common use case, whether it is cloud or not cloud, uh, is to ensure that is to basically audit your current security level of the current, with your application, and then see that how we can enhance that security layer without affecting much the customer experience. So that was the first use case. Most of the banks looked into it. Second use case is the a lot of some of our customers, I won't say a lot of, but some of our customers were using some of the platforms which had been unsupported. And we ensured that during this time where everything has to be managed remotely, we went ahead and we helped them to get those platforms to more supported version of this. And here I'm talking about especially on the Linux part. If your application is running on, I mean, one of the biggest advantage of Linux, even in unsupported version, is that it's a very stable platform. So a lot of customers don't realize that if my application is running initially on an unsupported platform, it can really grow. It can become a mission critical, and that's where the supported platform comes into picture. And that's where we guided the customers to identify their critical application to move to the supported platform. A lot of companies before COVID had invested on open source, but we during COVID time we ensured we worked with them very closely. We kept open source as it is, but we made those open source platform more secure and get more predictable output of those open source platforms. So whether it is MySQL, as a database on the open source, whether it is Oracle Linux as a underlying platform, on the open source, we ensure that they get proper backend support from us, from the OEMs. They keep on upgrading into that. So that's a second use case. But the as the period goes, sometime in November, December, when the companies started picking up their customer experience projects again, um, we started picking up more and more use cases that how your existing application can be mobilized. So how the interfaces can be moved to the bots, or can be moved to the mobile based applications, so that users can use it from anywhere and in a very simple manner. And the fourth one, as I've been telling right from the beginning, is about the optimization and modernization of the application. This was anyway running pre-COVID. Most of the companies, most of the customers of ours, they had this initiative. In COVID, it stopped for a couple of months, I would say, for 3 to 4 months. But from October, November last year onwards, it picked up, and we have been working. I mean, there have been good amount of projects going on in application platform optimization and modernization.
And vertical wise, which are the verticals where you witnessed maximum traction?
So, any vertical which is dealing with the customers directly, they are the one who have been very vocal and proactive in doing and implementing these use cases. So obviously, the banking and finance, the financial institutions are the key one. That's a first. But any non BFSI company, but which is B2C in that manner, is also very, very proactive in implementing those. The third aspect is companies who are in the retail business, when they wanted to get into the more analytics, and they wanted to see that whether they're getting best out of the data what they have collected from their customers, whether it's from the website, whether from the footfalls on the retail side, uh, what kind of analytics the data can provide. I think retailers also played a major role. We have few customers on the pharmaceuticals, and here, especially during the COVID time, the sharing of the research within the organization, sharing of the various confidential documents within the organization, wherever the users are. I think that's a very unique use case I found in pharmaceuticals, where those companies are especially looking into this, during this COVID area.
Thanks. And in terms of your go-to-market strategy, what are the initiatives and how do you do your GTM?
So Clover has around 150 live customers. And when I say live customers, means we have the annual engagement contracts with them, where we manage, monitor, maintain, and also enhance the value of their existing application stack. But more importantly, we now started working very closely with the OEMs. We are working very closely with Oracle, for that matter, to see that how this platform modernization, cloud migration, go to market can be taken jointly. So here, customer would like to see the OEM coming with a very expert partner to them, to see that, okay, it's not just the cloud which Oracle is providing, but who is the certified partner of Oracle which is helping me to migrate that. So we have a very strong initiative going on for the last 8 to 9 months about getting our people certified on Oracle Cloud. We have been providing that go to market along with Oracle, saying that we understand your infrastructure, we understand Oracle Cloud inside out, and we have certified experts with you. We will migrate, but most importantly, post migration will be there with you at least for 12 months. So we take end-to-end responsibility post migration to ensure that your cloud transformation is successful and you can get best out of it. So our go-to market is either we go to our existing set of customers where we know the infrastructure, or along with OEMs like Oracle, we go to the new set of customers where we take these various use cases along with Oracle.
So again, if we trace the last 1.5 year, where have the focus been? This sort of enhancing the depth of the existing engagements with the current customers, or like the with Oracle partnership you are mentioning, looking at acquisition of new customers. What has been the balance between the two?
Yeah, I mean, from a sales perspective, from a business perspective, if you ask me, we want to have both. I mean, frankly speaking, any sales or a business development manager, you ask this question, he'll say, I want both. I want my existing customer to, I want to deepen my existing customer relationship, but I want new customers also. But what is more important here, and what the biggest lesson we learned during COVID time, is that how we can make this solution replicable, how we can make it more sustainable and scalable. So whatever is happening, whatever the use case is happening in the one set of banks, maybe the infrastructure is different with the other set of banks, but the business problems more or less remain same. So we formed a team within Clover. These are basically like customer success managers, and they basically take various use cases from within the same industry, so that it becomes more scalable model. So that helps us to go deep into the customer organization. However, when we are taking these use cases to OEMs, to Oracle, Oracle can actually think about which are the other set of application, other set of customers which can be useful, in this journey. So then we start talking to them for the new set of customers. So our own team focus on our existing customer. Our Oracle relationship team works with Oracle very closely to get to the newer customer. And Clover is now present in 6 cities. Mumbai is a headquarter, but we are there in Pune, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Delhi. So we work very closely outside Mumbai with Oracle to see that how these use cases and how these successful case studies can be taken to new set of customers.
That's perfect. So the last question I'd like to ask is, if we look forward to the next 3 to 4 quarters, what are going to be the main focus areas? And that can be in terms of expanding the services offerings, or the scope of the engagement, or it can be geography wise. What will be the main 2, 3 focus?
So one of the focus areas is to expand our offerings. I mean, we have been working very closely with Oracle, and we are very, very happy with our relationship with them. But what is happening in the industry today, customers are looking at least 2 cloud vendors. And we have considerable amount of customers who are running on the Microsoft environment. So our next step is basically we have another set of alliance team who can go deep into the Microsoft partnership to see that how Microsoft workloads can be migrated to the Azure. So that's one. So whenever Oracle and Microsoft teams are working together within Clover, we ensure that we don't cross the business interests. So our thought process is very simple. If it is Oracle workload, either on-prem or Oracle Cloud. If it is a Microsoft workload, either on-prem or Microsoft Cloud. So one is to expand our offerings on the Microsoft Azure layer. That is one thing. Second thing is that the expansion which we did in last couple of years in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Delhi, strengthen that, get certain specific large enterprise customers over there in those cities. That's next focus what we have. We had our outside India expansion has been in Middle East. We have an office in Dubai. So strengthening that and expanding our customer base in UAE is on the cards. I also manage our customer engagement in North America, and expanding over there I mean, work has already started, and one of the new expansion we are taking is we are very closely watching APAC, Asia Pacific region, with the Singapore as a base, and we want to see that how we can expand in that market. So if you just list down all these things, is the expansion which is there in the pipeline, expansion of our offerings, expansion of our customer base, and expansion of the geographies. So I think I would term like this.
Sure, great. Thanks a lot, and have a
Pleasure.
good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.